I'm Lindsey Dilapi.
And I'm Billy Scaplehorn.
And this is LB Education. 10 million people vape worldwide, a majority of which are teens. Vapes, electronic cigarettes, e-cigarettes, or vapor cigarettes, whatever name they may be called, they are the most commonly used tobacco products among U.S. middle school and high school students. According to the FDA, the increased popularity of e-cigarettes among youth raises a number of concerns like risk of addiction early on in life and potential harm from developing nicotine exposure to the brain. According to Children's Hospital in Colorado, teenage brains are so vulnerable because of the way their brains are growing and developing. Exposure to nicotine can have long-lasting effects in adulthood. Teens who use nicotine show lower cognitive function, shorter attention spans, and increased depression and anxiety. Nicotine addiction can also increase the risk for other addictions in the future.
According to Johns Hopkins Medicine research, vaping is still harmful, but better than smoking cigarettes, but still not safe at all. The vast majority of e-cigarettes contain nicotine, but teens are unaware of what they're putting in their body. According to Walmart.com, among youth who used e-cigarettes, the most commonly three selected reasons are 39% believe that because a family or friend was using them that it was okay. 31% believe that it was better because of the flavors that were available like candy, fruit, and chocolate. 17% believe that they were less harmful than smoking other forms of tobacco such as actual cigarettes. Side effects of vaping can be things like in the mouth, in the airways, irritation, cough, increased airway resistance, heart and circulation, chest pain, increased blood pressure, and increased heart rate, and for the stomach, vomiting and nausea. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Yes, you in the white sweatshirt.
Thank you for choosing me. I'm a huge fan, and my question here today is it true that a single jewel pod has the same amount of nicotine as a full pack of cigarettes?
Right, that's a great question, and the answer is actually yes. And I hope that actually does scare you a little bit into not vaping and shows you the real risks of vaping.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have a question? Yeah, you in the black sweatshirt.
So, Billy, let me ask you, do you think that it's fair that these companies can attract the youth in with fruity flavors and other flavors?
Personally, I don't think it's right because they know that teens are vulnerable to try these new flavors, especially if they're like you said, like candy and fruit, stuff like that. They're obviously going to pick that over like a regular pack of cigarettes.
Right, so in a way they're preying on young children and teens that know that, oh, they're going to be interested in fruity flavors or whatever, and they're going to spend the money. All they care about is money. Thank you. Joining us today is Westlake's health teacher, Ms. Kaufman. Hello. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure. Less than 4% of high school students report daily tobacco smoking in 2018. Hardly a fifth of where that figure was 20 years ago. This downward trend represents one of the most successful public health campaigns ever waged. But what we have found alongside that is another trend, one in which many experts see tobacco as a disturbing reflection, vaping. How do you approach this conversation with your students?
Well, we do talk about it as it relates to the choices that people make. And yes, it was, having been part of watching the decline over the last 20 years of tobacco, it felt really, it was a wonderful achievement to be able to do that until the tobacco companies started to market vaping products as an alternative. Vaping products were originally designed for to help people quit smoking, but then they saw how profitable it could be if people just used it instead of tobacco. So we approach it in class as a decision that people have to make and something that no one else really has control over except that individual.
Right. Do you yourself feel that vape companies prey on students?
Oh, absolutely. They are using the exact same game plan that they used with tobacco back in the 40s and 50s. Mm-hmm. Some of the advertisements are almost exact as to how to get people involved. And they'll use a number of different marketing tactics, including appealing to an adolescent's sense of rebellion, for fun and partying, and that's how they will market all vape and e-cig products.
Wow, thank you so much.
Ms. Kaufman, have you seen any students that have been affected by vaping, just like smoking?
Well, in a sense, yes. I've actually not had any students who have come to me about wanting to stop vaping because the nicotine in vapes and e-cigs is the exact same as in tobacco products, so it's highly addictive. And it's been a number of years before anybody's come to me about that, wanting to quit. But I do know that there are several students who will leave class because they are feeling that craving that addiction produces, and they can't focus on anything. They get sort of anxious and nervous, and so if they don't leave and get that craving taken care of, they're going to start to feel worse and worse. So they'll ask to go use the restroom, or they get fidgety or nervous, and they just can't handle what's going on in class. Then they might be gone an extended period of time, and so it's affecting their learning. When they come back, they certainly feel better because they've been able to vape and take care of the craving, but there's no doubt that it's impacting them. Whether or not they have health issues, it's still a little bit early to tell. We do know that the cancer rates are not the same as with tobacco products, but we're not exactly sure of what is in the vape products that they're using. The companies can put in anything they want to, and it's a proprietary blend in the juice packs, in the fluid that's actually being vaped. So your guess is as good as mine.
Do you think that children and teens being this young and already needing like this craving is like a sign of like how it's like vaping is like increasing in like schools?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. They once addicted, the earlier somebody is when they become addicted, the more difficult it is to quit.
Wow. Do you have any recommendations for any teens or students struggling with vaping?
They should talk to an adult that they trust. There are ways that they can manage to cut back or certainly even stop. And it's not about getting in trouble at school. It's about, creating or stopping a habit that over time will just take its toll. And they have started to see, as adults continue to vape, they are switching back as adults into tobacco products, which then, of course, we know the health risks for that.
Great. Well, we want to thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Up next with us is Vice Principal Mr. Aiken.
Here with us today is Vice Principal Mr. Amon and his thoughts about vaping at Westlake.
Hey, Bill, thanks very much for inviting me.
Of course.
Hi, Lindsay, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
So given the fact that the global percentage of teens who vape is now high and it's starting to only get more popular, what impact does this have on Westlake students and how do you see it?
Well, Bill, it's a huge impact on our students. There's consequences for them bringing e-schools to Westlake. We have, there's an in-school suspension automatically that we start with once we find a vaping device. But more importantly is just some of the statistics that I wanted to share with you about vaping. So if you look at 9% of our U.S. adults are regularly or occasionally vaping, and that was as of 2018. And then if you look at in the U.S., almost 30% of high school students are using vape products, and that was as of 2019 from the Gallup poll. So it's an increasingly problem and a pandemic for us, really, because we just don't know what some of the health aspects are of this product.
Do you think that it would be better if less adults were vaping, and would that impact the children as well?
I don't know about that. I think adults, I don't know if kids model behavior from adults, but clearly they could very easily. And if that was something that our adults weren't doing, perhaps.
I'm also just wondering if you feel that the amount of peer pressure and it being kind of a popularity thing has affected the rise in vaping?
Lindsay, it very could easily be. I think one of the things about smoking back in my generation and e-cigarettes now is there's a cool factor to it, and kids think that, I want to be cool and hang out with the cool population. And they also see their parents modeling this behavior as well. One of the things that I did look up for you was some of the health consequences of e-cigarettes and e-vaping, and I just want to share with some of those. So as we know right now, and this was according to the Gallup poll again, what are some of the impacts of health? The e-cigarettes have been linked to severe lung and heart diseases, which is something that we won't be able to see for a long time after these young kids become adults. The second is e-cigarettes have high levels of nicotine that can put youth at risk for developing nicotine addiction. And the third most important one is that youth users are using these harmful substances, and they're filled with heavy metals and are gateway to smoking. And that's some of our real problems right now, is we just don't know right now, and it's just one of these things that's so popular right now, but yet we don't know what the effects are in the long term.
Right, I definitely agree. Do you feel that if kids were more aware about the health risks, it would be different, or you think they'd still be the same?
I think so too, and then you also look at the cost factor.
Right.
I pulled out one fact, and it was just amazing that it's a $40 billion in industry a year, according to 2000. So the 2023 projections is $40 billion that they're now targeting on youth and young users. And it's affecting, when you look at some of the ads on the TV, they're specifically targeting youth advisors, and it's awful. It really is.
Wow. Well, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us today.
We appreciate it.
Phil, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so
Lindsay,
much.
thank you so much.
Vaping is a major concern in the United States. It is important to recognize the signs and symptoms of its use to understand how vaping negatively affects someone. If you are a loved one facing nicotine addiction, call 877-854-0399.
This has been LG Education. Thank you so much for watching.